Hello and welcome to our National Electrical Contractors Association Safety Orientation video for the electrical industry. NECA is a support organization for over 3,500 electrical contractors around the country. The purpose of this video is to make you aware of the safety requirements of your company's policies and to remind you of the OSHA regulations that affect you while you're at the workplace. NECA is committed to your safety and the safety of the general public. By following your company's safety program and safety policies, we can all maintain a safe working environment for everyone. The goal of every effective safety program is zero accidents, and with your help, we can achieve it. However, in the event of an accident or incident, please follow your company's procedures and report all information to your supervisor or foreman. Emergency action plans requires the activation of the emergency medical services. Please call 911 or the designated phone number for reporting accidents and incidents that is posted in your area. This way, trained medical help can be summoned to the scene if necessary. We encourage all workers to be trained in first aid, basic life support, and CPR. We would also like to see employees take all universal precautions when dealing with any bloodborne pathogens. A first aid kit should be available on all construction sites for your use if needed. Remember to report all accidents, incidents, and near misses immediately to your supervisor so that a proper accident and incident form can be filled out and forwarded to the company's safety director and company safety committee for review. Your foreman, supervisor, or safety director will inform you to any site-specific information that you should be aware of and the evacuation plans in the event of an emergency for the plant you are working in. A list with the nearest hospital and medical care centers will be posted in the office trailer or job area for your information. Please make note of where these facilities are located. According to your company's safety program and policies, a job briefing using a safety checklist or pre-task analysis form should be filled out for all tasks being performed that day. In addition, a weekly safety meeting will be held and all employees must participate. These toolbox talks will offer specific training on a wide range of subjects we come in contact with while out on the job. One way to accomplish this is through the use of mobile apps such as the NECA Safety Meeting app. Your employer will provide hard hats, safety glasses, hearing protection, gloves, and safety vests if required, along with any specific personal protective equipment you may need to perform your job safely. It is your responsibility to wear safety shoes that meet OSHA requirements and wear the proper clothing for the environment you're working in. Electrical contractors should provide ARC-rated clothing if energized work is justified for you to perform, and where job requirements or conditions require it, and provide you with any insulated tools and rubber gloves you may need. Also, there may be times when a respirator will be needed to be worn, and for these cases, all of OSHA requirements concerning medical evaluations, training, fit testing, and equipment inspections will be followed. It is an OSHA policy that fall protection must be provided for all employees. A full body harness will be provided and must be worn if there is a possible fall of 6 feet or more next to the area you're working in. Also, a full body harness must be worn in any confined space and must have a retrieval line attached if it is a permit-required confined space, unless that creates a greater danger. Full body harness with positioning D-rings must also be worn in articulating boom lifts and secured properly per OSHA standards. All tie-off points for fall protection must be rated to a minimum of 5,000 pounds of force for each employee attached to the lifeline, and if it is a vertical line, only one employee may be connected to it. In addition, you should also become familiar with the company's fall protection rescue plan. OSHA requires that all employees be trained in hazard communication. The purpose of HazCom is to ensure that the hazards of all chemicals produced or imported are evaluated, and that information concerning their hazard is transmitted to employees and employers. This is accomplished through training, labeling, warning signs, and safety data sheets. Safety data sheets are obtained and prepared for each chemical and has information containing ingredients, exposure routes of entry, signs and symptoms of exposure, whether or not the chemical is a carcinogen, and what personal protective equipment must be used, what PEL, personal exposure limits, and total TLV, threshold limit values, are, what the reactivity and flammability of the chemical is, what the proper control measures are, and what treatment is recommended if exposure occurs. Your company's safety manual should contain SDS for the chemicals you commonly use on the job. Additionally, if the SDSs are kept at the office, they can be faxed upon request if a job site fax machine is available, or found on the internet if there's a computer with internet access available for all employees. The Globally Harmonized System, GHS, for the classification of highly hazardous chemicals is now used as a part of OSHA's HAZCOM program. It specifies the labeling and training requirements for those working around chemicals. GHS was developed by the United Nations, and it's intended to be used everywhere. The National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, also has developed a labeling system that has been used for years in the workplace. It identifies the flammability of chemicals with a red diamond, the reactivity of a chemical with a yellow diamond, the health hazards associated with the chemical with a blue diamond, and any other specific hazards that can be associated with the chemical will be found with a white diamond. The numbers in the diamonds range from 0, meaning no hazard, to 4, meaning extremely hazardous. One of the common areas of construction that we all work in is excavation. When any underground work is being performed, a trained operator on the equipment and proper procedures must be followed to protect employees from the dangers associated with excavations. A competent person must determine the soil type and know the proper sloping requirements of the material being excavated. A competent person is defined per OSHA standards as one who is capable of identifying existing and predictable hazards in the surroundings or working conditions which are unsanitary, hazardous, or dangerous to employees, and who has authorization to take prompt corrective measures to eliminate them. This requirement is found in OSHA Standard 1926.450.b. Any excavation greater than 4 feet must also be checked for hazardous atmospheres with the proper gas detector monitor, and any excavation deeper than 4 feet that cannot meet the sloping requirements must be shored with proper shoring material or trench boxes. While on the construction site, workers often use ladders, scissor lifts, or scaffolding to install material and equipment in elevated areas. Ladders should only be used on flat, level ground, and the area around the ladder should be kept clear of any material or debris. Always use a non-conductive ladder and never stand on the top 2 steps. Extension ladders must extend 3 feet above the landing and be secured when in use. Also, refrain from climbing the back rungs or using a ladder that is painted, varnished, or damaged. Ladders must be destroyed and properly disposed of if they are damaged beyond repair. No ladder may be taken home for personal use. If the ladder is not safe to use it on the job, it's not safe to use it anywhere else. Project superintendents and foremen should have received information, training, and company authorization designating them as competent persons in the area of excavations, fall protection, ladders, and personal protective equipment. A qualified person is one who has skills and knowledge related to the construction and operation of equipment and installation and has received safety training on the hazards involved. Following the guidelines set forth by OSHA, NEC definition of a qualified person will help in ensuring all work is performed safely. The policy references OSHA Standard 1910.333.a. 1 is the basis for the procedure. Hazardous energy lockout-tagout applies to everyone and prevents the uncontrolled release of energy while a worker is performing maintenance or modifications. It requires an authorized employee that is trained in recognizing the hazardous energy sources and the means for implementing energy isolation and control. There is also an affected employee that is instructed in the purpose and use of energy control procedures. Other employees that are or may be in the area will be instructed about the procedures and the prohibited starting and/or re-energizing of the machinery or equipment that is locked out. The common procedures to follow are identification of the energy sources, notification of the affected employees, shutdown of controls, shutdown of the main energy source or sources, there may be more than one, apply lockout-tagout, dissipate any stored energy, test, and try controls to ensure equipment will not operate. Verification. Lock, tag, try before working on any equipment. Each worker should have his or her lock on the equipment and follow OSHA standards when applying lockout-tagout procedures. And remember, energy comes in many forms. electrical, pneumatic, chemical, hydraulic, pressure, and kinetic. Every company should have an energized work policy that states all electrical work should be performed with equipment de-energized and only after proper lockout-tagout procedures have been implemented to ensure that the equipment is in an electrically safe working condition. Recognizing the need for clarification, your company should have a reporting policy for any electrical work that is deemed necessary while working around energized circuits. Remember, that is when it is infeasible, such as testing and troubleshooting by a qualified person, or if turning the power off could create greater hazards. It is also a good policy to notify a supervisor or upper management before working on or around any energized circuits. Following NFPA 70E requirements that an energized electrical work permit should be filled out and signed by the owner or owner's representative before work is performed is your best assurance that all preparations are being followed. Remember, this also requires the use of proper personal protective equipment such as arc-resistant face shields, rubber gloves, and arc-rated clothing. In order to operate any equipment such as aerial lifts, excavation equipment, and vehicles, each employee must have the proper training and certifications before getting behind the controls. Construction forklifts have additional requirements that involve classroom training, testing, and evaluations to be considered a qualified construction forklift operator. If you're an authorized driver of a company vehicle, you should be familiar with motor vehicle regulations of your state and company policies pertaining to distracted driving and operating a vehicle under the influence of any medication or alcohol. When our work involves cutting concrete, it's our policy to use the wet cut method to minimize any concrete dust or exposure to silica. You must also use proper ventilation and limit the access to the area to untrained individuals. A company trained in the proper lifting procedures of OSHA should perform all equipment lifting. All equipment should be inspected prior to each use and outriggers fully extended. Only one individual may be designated as the signal person with the operator, and he will be the only one giving commands. Welding has its own special requirement that must be considered when either mechanical or electrical employees are welding. A hot work permit must be filled out before any welding is performed. An individual trained in the use of fire extinguishers will be the designated fire watch and must stay on his post at least 30 minutes after the welding has been completed. Special consideration should be used to evaluate any airborne hazards, such as fumes and gases, to prevent any adverse health effects. It is mandatory that the proper eye and face protection be worn, as well as proper fire-resistant clothing. Also, it is necessary to ensure that shields are in place to protect persons from hazardous light, sparks, and spatters. Be aware of hot metal after welding and use the proper hand protection. All gas cylinders must be properly identified and labeled with the value protection cap in place when the cylinder is stored and not in use. Use only a designated handcart when moving gas cylinders. Put spent welding rods in a non-combustible can and remove any welding rods from electrodes when not in use to prevent any accidental contact to grounded surfaces. Many states have laws that prohibit any person from smoking in an enclosed indoor workplace. The definition of an enclosed indoor workplace includes any place in which one or more persons can engage in work at any given time, and which place that is predominantly or totally bound on all sides and above by physical barriers. Area that are affected are office and storage trailers, rooms and construction areas, control rooms, electrical rooms, inside break rooms, and any area that fits the description of enclosed indoor workplace as defined by the Act. These acts applies to commercial activities of any company and should have signs posted as "No smoking" in an area defined as an enclosed indoor workplace. As always, smoking is never allowed around flammable or hazardous locations, and housekeeping is vital to prevent any accidents associated with discarded cigarettes in any location. By following the safety programs and safety policies we have spoken about here in this video, we can work to ensure everyone's safety on the job. By applying these and other safety principles at home, we can all strive to keep ourselves and our families free from injury.